Okay, tell the truth. Are you spending too much time on social media creating content because that's what you're supposed to do, but you're just not seeing the clients come in the door? You need Post with Purpose, our social media membership site made just for estheticians and spa owners that will help you get crystal clear on what to say and when, and teach you our content creation system that'll have you knocking out a month's worth of content, yes, a month, in just a couple of hours. Sound good? Check out our $7 for 7-day trial and take back your time today. Hello, my dears. Daniela here, and welcome to another episode of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. Okay, I want you to imagine something for a minute. How would you feel if you had your books filled for the next 12 months? Would that give you security? Would that take the fear out of your decision making? Well, that is exactly what my guest and Growth Factor client, Katt Philipps, has done for multiple years in a row. And she's joining me today to have a really interesting conversation about why she moved in that direction. And then, of course, how she actually did it. That's what you guys want to know, right? So Katt is a true solo, and she generates more in her business than any true solo that I have ever met. And when I say true solo, I mean true solo. The woman does not even have a virtual assistant. She is wearing all of the hats in her business, and she manages to have an e-com store, an active online, social media presence for her business and for her education site. It's incredible. Now, in my experience, true solos max out somewhere between 200 to 250K in annual revenue. And Katt has smashed those numbers while creating a business that works for her and her needs. Now, remember, it's all about building a business around a life that you love. Now, her method is certainly not for everyone, and we get into that in the interview, but there are multiple pearls of wisdom dropped in this episode. Okay, so let me do a quick read of Katt's bio, and then we can go ahead and play that interview so we can get to the good stuff that I know you guys are waiting for. How the heck did she do that, right? Okay, so after 28 years in the industry, spa owner and licensed esthetician Katt Philipps has studied beauty from almost every angle. Katt's first career as a Hollywood makeup artist inspired her love of all things skin. Her curious nature and passion for education allowed her to work in salon spas and medical spas before operating her bustling private skincare clinic in 2013. A passion for relationships and business strategy helped Katt build a multi-six-figure business as a solo esthetician. Katt loves to support others and has been lucky enough to teach her business building techniques to spas all over the world. She's a real powerhouse. It's such an honor to have her in Growth Factor, and I know that you guys are going to love her as much as I do. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and play that interview. All right, Katt, welcome to the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. I am so excited to have you on because I know that your episode is I'm going to just like Babe Ruth call it, that this is going to be one of the top episodes of the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast because I think so many estheticians out there would love to emulate what you have created as a true solo, being booked out for 12 months in advance. That's a big deal. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that's a lot to live up to. So I'm going to do my best to offer as much value as I can for everybody that's listening. Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get into this system, this framework that you have created, that really was, you created it out of necessity, but it has since become just the way that you do things, and has really been able to change your life, right? Change the way that you function, help you have a more balanced and healthy life. But we have some congratulations in order because you, my friend, are now a #1 best-selling author. How cool is that?
Yes. So we just launched the Kindle editions in pretty much, we did a worldwide launch. So it went, I think 10 or 12 different countries it launched in. And there were 22 of us that were part of it. And we're all women in the beauty industry that kind of, took our lumps and bumps to get where we are. And it's our stories and our challenges and kind of the things that we did to get to where we are. So there's 22 of us. We're all around the world. So I'm the only one in the United States, but there's a lot of people in the UK and people from Poland. There's people from Australia. So it was just an amazing thing. So we got number one hot new release in the United States and got to number 6 in the bestsellers here. And then in Europe, we went number 1 on kind of all the above. So we're super excited. And on February 8th, we're going to launch the paperback and we'll see how that goes.
I love that because it's, the time that we're at in our world with everything that we're dealing with COVID and all of these kind of things, we need passion and drive more than ever, right? We need to hear success stories and we need to hear like, what kept you going? What obstacles did you face and how did you continue? Because a lot of people are just emotionally and physically drained, right? It's a lot. And so I think that hearing the success stories of women specifically in our industry that have gone through and overcome. Sorry, I'm tired. Have gotten through these big things. It really helps to kind of light that fire and say, like, okay, what's next? Or I can do this and I can take that next obstacle to get to the next level. And
absolutely.
So important.
Absolutely. The Beauty and the Best book was just so cool because I didn't get to read the other chapters until it came out just about 10 days ago. And I read it. And now I look at 2021 and I'm on fire. I'm going to get as much stuff done because hearing all of the different stories of what they did to get to where they are, it makes you really realize, even from where I'm at and being in the book, that, I can do it. And I mean, I needed it after last year for sure. So it is a great read.
Very cool. Okay. So let's kind of transition here and give our listeners, let's dive into your 12 and 12 framework because, we said in the beginning, I talked about it a little bit in the intro, but you are known for being booked out 12 months in advance. And that's something that, there's pros and cons, and I'm going to definitely weigh in so we can have a kind of fun dynamic conversation because I don't believe that this method is for everybody, but for the people that it's for, it's life-changing, right? If this is the way that you want to run and operate your business, and that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is you get to structure your business in the way that works for you. So let's just start back at the beginning. How did this framework even come to be? Like, what was going on in your life? What happened that led you to like, okay, something's got to change?
Yeah. So it was really interesting because I studied super hard on how to build a clientele and like how to get new people in and how to work on being out in the community and having all of these different relationships. And so I started building all these relationships. And so I started having more and more clients come in and I kept working then on retention. But when you start retaining all of your clients and you're not booking, thinking ahead and booking in advance, what happens is your star starts to rise and people that you don't know start trying to come in. And so I end up with kind of rich people problems, and that's exactly what you want, right? But then I ended up getting to the point where because I was only booking 1, maybe 2 appointments in advance max, that my regulars couldn't get in. So my regulars were calling my VIPs that got me, the ones that believed from me from the very, very beginning. They started calling in and I was telling them things, I can't get you in 3-4 months. And I was losing the people who had gotten me there. And at the same time, I also, unfortunately, got bit by a bug and ended up with Lyme's disease. And so my body was kind of melting down as we were trying to figure that out. I was adding so many hours. I was normally working 40 hours in the clinic, but then I was adding 1 to 2 hours of the beginning and the end of my schedules, coming on my days off, really like watching my relationship with my husband, become more and more distant because I just wasn't home. I wasn't a good wife. And I was having harder and harder times being a successful business owner, even though I had the flood coming of clients coming into the door. So eventually kind of got to the point where I just didn't know what to do. The stress was super high, and talked to a friend of mine over in England, and she suggested it. And I just said, okay.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit more, because I think it's important to note also that for those that are not familiar with Lyme's disease, it can make you just physically exhausted. So on top of the exhaustion that like everyone feels as an entrepreneur, when you're in that overworked and overwhelmed space, when you're feeling like just chaos is happening all around you, to then on top of that, have your body going through something that you really just need rest, right? You've really got to let the body heal. And then the stress of what's happening with the relationships of the people around me. And, we go into entrepreneurship so that we can have this freedom, right? We want the flexibility. We want all of those pieces to build a business around the life we love. But then it's like, well, what's happening? Like these seem like great problems, but how did I create this prison for myself almost? So the person that you were talking with in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
what did she say? She said, just book out. Like, how did that conversation go?
Yeah, so I met her. I met her through Adam Chatterley, and her name's Susan Rutledge. And she got on the phone with me. She goes, "I don't know what your problem is. Just book them for a year." And I had no idea what that meant. She hung up the phone, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't even know how to do. I don't even know how to do that, because you spend your life building your career, offering to people, not asking from people. So I had to learn how to make the ask of my clients. And, it's really funny because when you actually step out of yourself and you're like, okay, I'm going to make this a two-way street relationship, all of a sudden that relationship you have with your guests becomes so strong. And it's because you're no longer a one-way street, which is definitely we're givers. We give. We don't know how to say no. And when you finally do, and you start that conversation both ways, your whole business changes. And for me, it put everything back on track, because by booking people out for a long period of time, I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I'm one of those people that, even in my business side and when I'm doing my paperwork side, I like to batch things. I like to know what I'm doing this week, what I'm doing next week.
I'm well aware of your batching.
It ended up being like one of those amazing sort of things that then I knew what I was doing. I knew who was coming. I booked everybody by the people that I liked the most. So every day I can look at my schedule and I can be excited to be there. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it worked out really well. But you have to, to really go out as far as 12 months, you have to really be willing to commit to when your day is off and when you're going on vacation. And I book 8 weeks of vacation. So I'm totally fine with, working 10 weeks and then getting 2 weeks. That for me works really nicely.
So we kind of glazed over a couple of pieces that I want to dig into deeper, because I know your story. So tell me about the email, because I know when you were like, okay, I'm going to just do this. And it was like the one email that changed everything. Tell me what your thought process was, what was in the email. How did that whole booking process begin?
I did do this by email because I was too nervous to pick up the phone and talk to people in person because I don't do well with no. So I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And so I wrote, my first email was to my top 20, my 20 people that I love the best. And the email was entitled, "Don't Tell Anybody." And so I just explained to them that I needed to get control of my life. And for my life to be happy, I wanted to have them in it with me. And would you please book for 12 months in advance? And don't tell your friends because they might not have gotten the letter. So I was really picky about it. And then I started going, breaking my list down further and further. And there were different versions of the same letter as it went down my list. And so I did kind of a similar version to that every year that I've sent for, I think 4 years now. We've been working that way.
And I think it's important to note when we say booked out in advance, you also, we both have calendar processes. I know, it's like there's a very serious calendar process that happens, but you don't have like 0 spots available, right? I mean, you go through, you book your vacation out, you book your days off. You also do an A week, B week type of thing. Yeah. But you're leaving space for new people to come in as well. So what does booked out for 12 months actually mean? Is that 60% booked? How does that look for you?
So typically, I've done it both. I've done it both ways. The first year I did 100% booked out, 12 months, hardcore. And you end up breaking your own rules when you don't have flexibility in your schedule. What I have found to be the best is to have kind of like a old programmers thing for computer people. They'll know what it is. They're called Easter eggs. And so I will hide little Easter egg appointments. So when someone calls me or I get a referral from somebody who is really great, I'll have a couple little appointments hidden here and there so that people can kind of move around. And so that's worked out really, really, really nicely. Those Easter egg appointments are in a different price point than my regular appointments. So you do pay a premium for it. But it's worked out really, really nicely because I do still have to turn people down, and I do have quite an extensive wait list. And I do have some people that will wait up to 6 months to come in and see me, but I still nurture that wait list so that they know that they're not forgotten and they still have access to me, even if not in person during that time.
So one thing that I want to just completely make clear to everybody is that you are a true solo.
Yep.
True solo. You don't even have a VA.
I don't even have a VA right now. I miss having one. It's just me right now. I answer all the phones. I send all the emails. I even write my own websites. So yeah, so it's just me.
And for me, I have seen in my experience I'm in year 7 of being on the coaching side of things. I'm in year 14 of being in the industry. And for me, every solo that I've worked with has capped out really at that like 2, maybe 250 max. And you are heads and shoulders above that with just you.
Yeah, I got really lucky and I went over 300 once. And so that's like my goal is to make sure that I'm at 300, at least 300 every year. I did miss it with the pandemic, but I still was over 260. So considering that Illinois was shut down for facials for almost 6 months, it was amazing how well the year ended up. So we're really lucky. But I mean, when I say I'm a true solo, I am a true solo, but I'm really, really well supported by people around me that have amazing skills that I can call on. My husband is incredible with a lot of the back end computer stuff. My brother's also really good with the back end. So I can't say that I'm YouTubing all of my information. I do have people around me that have big skills, and that's a huge help.
So let's rewind, because we now know, like, okay, here's the outcome. But let's talk about how you built your business up to that point in the first place where you had these streams of clients. Because some people might be like, yeah, that's nice, but I don't even have enough clients to book out for 12 months. So how do you get there? So I know you said you worked a lot on referral relationships and you worked a lot on retention. I am a huge supporter of retention. There's the quote, the stat that I quote all the time from Harvard Business School, that a 5% increase in client retention will increase your profits by 25 to 95%. I think you really took that to the max and saw that. But when you started, how did you know, like, oh, I'm going to build this on referral relationships? Because I know that you had reached out to some of the med spas and some of other places in your community. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I moved to where I live now in my 30s. I didn't know anybody. I met my husband and that was it. So I started from literally nowhere. I had the opportunity to work for a doctor. I worked, and then I ended up working in a salon and spa. So I was there for quite some time. And, you end up getting the dregs when you first start out because, everybody gives the girl that they, that's new, the clients that they don't like. And so I was able to build from that. And when I switched to being on my own, which almost 8 years ago, I had a really strong do not compete with my old salon. So I had to start over from scratch. So the first thing that I did is I did a mailer. It was the first time I'd ever put my photo on anything, like literally on anything. So I put a mailer out with a big photo of myself to the zip codes that I knew that there were pockets of my clients, just hoping that someone would see my face, because I couldn't openly tell people where I had gone. Luckily, it did land in the right mailbox, and she used to throw all the big block parties. And so she told everybody about me. So I started getting like trickles of like clients coming in. And after the first couple of months, I didn't have enough clientele to make it go for it. So I literally asked my clients, I told them, I'm like, I can't survive if I'm your dirty little secret. And so I asked people for the referral, and they did. They were really good about it. And then I started asking for the reviews. So then I started building up my Yelp reviews, and now it's kind of shifted. Now the Google review is king. So it was a lot of that and a lot of nurturing things. And I also had to realize kind of who I was as a person, and that I'm not one of those people that really enjoys the process of meeting somebody for the first time. I love knowing who they are and like watching that relationship develop. I love hearing people talk about, how their kids are growing, or how their daughter's doing when they're pregnant with their first child. I love that sort of relationship. So for me, it was really important to put my emphasis on knowing somebody for the rest of my life, rather than knowing somebody for that one time, because I just didn't feel fulfilled if I just saw you once. And so I think when you shift that mindset of, I'm going to see them again, your conversations in the clinic become really different, because your conversation is no longer, I'm just going to relax you right now. Instead, your conversations become, well, when the next time you come in, we're going to work on this, and we're going to start to condition your skin so that we can get further into the results process. And so you start building out this really beautiful arc of where that client is going to go. And then your visit becomes more on setting goals and achieving those goals. And I think we all love to, set one up, knock one down, set one up, knock one down. And that's really kind of the secret of success, is really knowing where you're going, and always having something not only for you as a therapist to look forward to the next time you see them, but also for your client to look forward to.
So it sounds like, when I was still practicing, I remember that I was in Boston, and you would have these clients that would bring you Christmas gifts and would know, like, they knew my husband's name. They knew everything that was going on. But it also was still a very professional relationship, right? It was not like, you're not like telling, whatever. It's very professional, but it's personal.
Yeah.
And those people, that thought of you as a friend, those people would never go and take what you told them and buy it online, or take what, like, that's one of the biggest objections that I hear when I train. People are like, well, why should I even recommend products? Because they're just going to take everything that I tell them and go and buy it online. Well, if you have such a deep relationship and such a deep connection, it's like, what did you do with that person to make that VIP become that VIP? And how can you replicate that with every single client that comes in the door? And I think that you know this, but it's not everybody is for you, right? And being okay to weed out who works well with you, who you enjoy working with, and really putting your heart and soul into building a long-term relationship with them, because they can feel that. They can feel that for sure.
Yeah,
I love that.
There's that moment, we get to, as therapists, have a one-on-one conversation with no distractions in the room. And I think when you go all in and you're willing to be present with somebody, you can very quickly build that sort of relationship. But you have to be really strong of mind, not to be like, well, my next appointment was going, and maybe between this one, I'll have enough time to go to the bathroom. Maybe we can get some food here. My groceries. And it's hard. You have to learn to really quiet your mind when you're there and allow that space, not only for them to feel safe, but for you to feel safe. And
I told you this before. I know we have this in common, but I used to, when I couldn't quiet my mind and I was thinking about the 15 things that I needed to do, and if I wanted to make the train, because I took the T when I was in Boston. If I wanted to make the train, like, I had to do everything was going on in my mind. I would just say, nope, I'm just going to say, I love you. I love you so much. This is going to be the best treatment you've ever had. And I would just repeat that over and over in my head, because if I was not repeating it, I would be thinking about dinner and the train and like all these other things that needed to happen. That kept me present and focused. And maybe that's super weird, but it it worked. And I still, to this day, have clients that I'm friends with on Facebook that are still commenting on from years ago.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's the thing is, we all deserve love, and we're in that awesome position to be able to give it. And I don't think it's weird at all. I think that that's really what makes the world go round. And I'm the same way, as that. Even you had talked about the retail piece of it. I still have people who I have not seen professionally in 6-7 years that have moved, that I'm still shipping products to. I even have a gal that moved to Portugal, and she would fly back every quarter to still get her facials, even though she had moved to Portugal. So, you can build those sort of relationships. I think it's a really, I didn't realize that it was my strategy until I started to really sort of lay things out. Like, how can I teach people what it is that I do? And it's just really into the mindset when you go in there that this person, I'm going to know them forever. And that's, it's just a cool way to live your life, is, with people that you can be invested in, because they become invested in you.
So let's talk about who this is good for and who this is not good for, because I think it can be incredible. But as I said before, there's I never coach people to be booked out 12 months in advance, because I say, well, we'll get into that conversation, but let's look at the pros and cons, because if this is right for you, it can be life-changing. It can set you up for it. It just takes so much of the stress of being on that hamster wheel, So let's talk about the pros and cons, who this is good for, who this is not.
So, I mean, I think if you're somebody who likes to plan out, I think it's great. If you are somebody who flits around, moves a lot, never stays in one spot, or that tends to be difficult. However, there's pieces and parts of all of it that I believe that anybody can use, because you're learning how to take control of your conversation with your clients. You're working on your own mindset. You're working on rebooking, because I believe that everybody should be rebooking at least one appointment before they leave. I think that as much as I love my online booking software, I think that we put too much faith that people are going to remember who you are and call. So there are pieces and parts for everybody, but I think if you go 12 months, you got to be all in. You have to be all in. That's what you're going to do. That's how you want to work. And it was really interesting last year, because there were so many people that did have to get canceled off my schedule because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And it was really a fun way. I mean, at first it was very frustrating, but it was really a fun way to see how this model can still continue to move on, because it continued to move on for all of those clients. Because even though I couldn't see them in person, I was sending them their facials to do at home. And so we kept that program going, even though you can't be one-on-one. So I think that parts of that can really easily be tailored to everybody's business. But
how do you address the objection that so for me, one of the main reasons that I don't recommend being booked out so far in advance is because I say, if you are booked out more than 8 weeks, then you need to raise your prices. Mm-hmm. And I think that, it's supply and demand, right? Mm-hmm. What's your experience with that? And what's your opinion on that?
I still do price increases even when they're booked out. Just because you're booked out and you're holding an appointment, you're holding a time, you're not holding a price. So I think that that creates there's always that fear that I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. But if you're booked out that far in advance, you've basically become price irrelevant to your clients, which means that your clients will come and see you basically based on whatever price you want to charge. And if they drop off, you'll have enough people waiting to get in for you that they're going to come back and backfill even at the new pricing. So
what do you charge for a facial right now?
My pre-book price, if you don't move anything around, is $165 for the baseline, and then it goes up from there depending on add-ons and that sort of things. But typically speaking, that's what people come in for. If you are new to me, you come in at a $200 price.
And do you live in an urban area or a rural area?
So I am a suburb of Chicago. My clinic is in a spot that is really all commercial. There's less than 1,000 people that live in the town, but there's quite a few towns around that I pull from. It's been very interesting since COVID hit, because all the office buildings, the reason why I opened, they are all basically shut down. Nobody's going in. But it was interesting to see that it didn't really affect me. People were still traveling.
I know people, like listeners, are going to be like, well, I can't charge that much for a facial because I live in Louisiana or something. You know what I mean? Like do you think that matters?
I don't, because I started 7 years ago. I started at $85.
Okay.
So, I mean,
do you do price increases every year, or how do you judge when you're going to do a price increase?
I basically do price increases based on my body. If my body can't handle the load that I'm taking, I'll raise prices. But always at least twice a year.
At least twice a year.
Yeah.
And do you just send out an email or what does that look like?
I don't even tell them. I used to send out an email. I used to get super worked up about it and all this other stuff. And now I don't. When I do my rebook for the year, because I like to do my rebook at one time of the year, I do tell them, if you want to hold your price, we're going to book you and you'll hold your price for the first 6 months. And then, you'll go up to the new price. So I do let them know that this was my first incentive to be able to get people to book that full amount, was to hold the pricing. And now I don't even do it. I just tell them I'm having my rebooking event and we just do it.
Awesome. Okay. So I know that this is I feel like we've opened Pandora's box and estheticians are going to have so many questions, which is great. I, for one, am so thrilled that you are finally taking the step to move into education, the Beauty Educator. I will never forget the first time, because you started with us in Post with Purpose. Now you're in Growth Factor, but in Post with Purpose, you showed up for a coaching call and you asked, I don't even remember what you asked, but all I remember is my first comment to you was like, why are you not in education?
That's what you said. Word for word.
And I was like, I didn't even answer her question, but I was like, who is this woman? Why is she not in education? What's happening? So for me, it's been so beautiful to watch your evolution, watch you. I mean, you already knew everything. You were ready to go into education back when you joined our very first program, but I think you had to have the confidence and that to see that blossom in you and see like really how incredible it is as to what you have created. I'm just so excited because I know that your knowledge and your impact and your heart is going to make such a big difference in our industry. And I am all for supporting women that want to step up as leaders. And you are just, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
It's so amazing to have you behind me on this because it's a scary jump to switch to educator, but you really get to that point where you kind of realize that, it's that whole, sometimes it's too painful to stay as a bud for you. So the flower has to blossom. And, when I sit and I think about all of these estheticians that are struggling to fill their books, struggling to pay their rent, it's not okay. I mean, we are so highly educated. We're such passionate people. You don't get into this without passion. And I've fallen down enough times and gotten up and figured things out. And now I just want to be able to provide that for other people so they don't have to fall down as much as I did. It's just such a cool thing to be able to show somebody a technique and watch them run with it and watch them be even more successful than I've ever been. I mean, it's just, I love that. I love watching people fly.
Oh. So where can estheticians that want to stay in touch with you, where can they find you, follow you? I know you have a special gift for them. So give us all the goods. Yeah.
So I'm over on Instagram quite a bit because a Post with Purpose made me love it. So I'm over there. I'm the Beauty Educator, and it's the.beauty.educator. So there's periods between the words. And then for stuff that I made for you guys, I have a little bit of a freebie. It's the 5 booking mistakes that we all make. And these are the ones that even I have to retrain myself on, because when I have bad days, I do fall into these. And that is going to be at pages.thebeautyeducator.com/ADDO. And so we'll
include links to all these. So don't worry if you're driving, don't stop. We've got links below.
Yeah. And for the first people that get that freebie, I'm going to give a free Kindle copy of the new book, Beauty and the Best. And so I'm super excited to meet some people and help them with their businesses.
Very good. So you guys be sure to check that out, that resource out that Katt is giving for you. Follow her on Instagram. I've been following her on Instagram for a very long time, and I learn new stuff all the time. I'm like, oh, the beauty educator showing up in my feed. So check her out. She is up to very big things this year, and it can truly, truly help your business if getting your booking process systemized, figuring out how to get you booked out for 12 months is a thing. You want to learn from Katt. All right. So to keep this conversation going, head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group. Tag us, let us know your questions, let us know how you're doing, and we will catch you in the next episode.